In 1994, the average American household poured nearly $400 a year into products they were told they needed but never did. Bottled water drawn from the same pipe as the kitchen faucet. Warranties that paid out less than one time in 10. And number 7 on this list? A product the FDA quietly forced off shelves after admitting it did nothing at all. Older Americans grew up trusting the label, the salesman, the commercial that ran between game shows. Then one by one, they learned the truth. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. You just stop reaching for these things at the store. Whole industries were built on us never asking a single question. Before we count down, hit that subscribe button because number 1 alone could save you thousands. Let us begin with number 20. Number 20, bottled salad dressing. For decades, that shelf of ranch, Italian, and French dressing was as automatic in the grocery cart as milk and eggs. A bottle cost around $3 in the 1990s and promised the taste of a restaurant right there on your iceberg lettuce. Then people started reading the back of the bottle. Water, soybean oil, corn syrup, and a long parade of stabilizers to keep it all from separating on the shelf for 18 months. The truth was almost insulting in its simplicity. A real vinaigrette is nothing but oil, vinegar, a spoon of mustard, and a pinch of salt, whisked in a jar in under a minute for a fraction of the cost. Older cooks who once stockpiled bottles quietly went back to the cruet their own mothers kept by the stove. The flavor was fresher, the ingredients were 3 instead of 30, and the money stayed in the wallet. Once you taste the difference, the bottled stuff never quite tastes like food again. Number 19, plug-in air fresheners. In the 1980s and the 90s, the scented plug-in became the mark of a house that had its act together. Warm vanilla, clean linen, autumn apple, glowing away in the wall socket while guests were expected. A starter kit ran $5 or $6, and the refills, sold separately, kept coming forever. That was the whole business model. Then the truth settled in. These devices do not clean a single molecule of air. They coat your nose with fragrance chemicals, so you stop noticing the smell underneath. And many of those fragrance blends were never fully disclosed on the box. Older Americans, especially those who developed headaches they could never explain, started unplugging them one by one. What replaced them was almost laughably old-fashioned. An open window, a pot of water simmering with orange peel and cinnamon on the stove, baking soda in the refrigerator. The house actually smelled clean instead of smelling like a chemical trying to convince you it was clean. Number 18, greeting cards. There was a time when the card aisle was a moral obligation. Birthdays, anniversaries, get well soon, thinking of you, and nobody blinked at paying $4, $5, even $7 for a folded piece of cardstock with someone else's words printed inside. Then the arithmetic finally landed. A family marking a dozen occasions a year was spending $60 or $70 on paper that got read once and thrown away within the week. The truth was that the sentiment people actually treasured was never the printed verse. It was the handwriting at the bottom. Older Americans, who remembered when a letter meant something, started writing their own words on a plain card or a sheet of nice stationery, and the recipients kept those far longer than any store-bought rhyme. Some went further and simply picked up the phone, which cost nothing and meant more. The card companies had sold us the idea that love required a barcode. It never did. Number 17, name brand cleaning products. Under the average American sink in 1990, you could find a small chemical warehouse, a different colored bottle for glass, for tile, for counters, for wood, for the tub, each one branded, each one $4, each one promising to be the only thing that could possibly handle its one specific job. Then the truth crept in through the back door. Most of these bottles were doing the same work with the same handful of ingredients, dressed up in different scents and different marketing. White vinegar cut through grease and hard water for pennies. Baking soda scrubbed a tub without scratching it. A drop of dish soap in warm water cleaned almost anything left standing. Older Americans, many of them raised by mothers who cleaned an entire house with vinegar, ammonia, and elbow grease, quietly went back to basics. The cabinet emptied out, the grocery bill dropped, and the house was just as clean as it had ever been under the fog of a dozen competing sprays. Number 16, pre-washed bagged salad. When those bags of triple-washed lettuce appeared in the produce section, they felt like a small miracle of the modern age. No chopping, no rinsing, no core to cut out. Just tear open and serve. People paved right past the head of romaine, sitting there for 99 cents, to grab the same amount of leaves in a bag for $3 or $4. Then the truth arrived, and it arrived on the news. Those bags wilted to slime days before a whole head ever would. And periodic recalls reminded everyone that convenience and freshness were not the same thing. Older shoppers did the math. They were paying triple, sometimes quadruple, for the privilege of buying lettuce that spoiled faster and forced a coin toss with every bag. Many drifted back to the whole head, a salad spinner from a yard sale, and 2 minutes at the sink. It kept for a week, cost a quarter of the price, and never once came with a warning printed on the label. Number 15, fabric softener and dryer sheets. Nothing said a well-kept home like laundry that came out soft and smelling of springtime. The liquid softener and the little sheets in the dryer were as standard as the detergent itself, and the commercials promised clothes so plush you would want to press your face into them. Then the truth turned up in the strangest place, on the bath towels. That softness is a thin, waxy coating the product leaves on every fiber, and over time it builds up until your towels stop absorbing water and your athletic wear stops breathing. Older Americans, especially the practical ones who noticed their good towels had quietly stopped drying anything, cut it out entirely. Some switched to a splash of plain white vinegar in the rinse, which softened without coating. Many discovered their clothes were fine with nothing at all. The laundry lasted longer, the towels went back to actually drying a body, and one more recurring line item vanished from the shopping list for good. Number 14, designer reading glasses. For anyone whose arms slowly got too short to read a menu, the eye appointment used to end with a hard sell at the frame's wall. $200, $300, $400 for a designer name stamped on the temple, plus the lenses on top. And people paid it, because their eyes felt too important to cheap out on. Then the truth hit the drugstore spinner rack. For simple magnification, the pair of readers hanging by the pharmacy for $12 uses the same optical principle as the boutique pair, ground to the same standard diopter strengths. The designer premium was almost entirely the name and the frame. Older Americans, who tend to lose or sit on reading glasses, at a heroic rate started buying them, 3 at a time from the drugstore, leaving a pair in the kitchen, the car, and by the bed. They stopped mourning a lost pair because a lost pair no longer cost a car payment. The vanity faded. The reading got done just the same. Number 13, single-serve coffee pods. When the pod machine landed on kitchen counters, it felt like the future had arrived. A fresh cup at the push of a button, no pot to brew, no grounds to dump, a dozen flavors in a little rack. People happily bought the machine and then bought the pods forever. Which, again, was the entire point. Then someone did the math nobody wanted to do. Ounce for ounce, the coffee inside those little cups worked out to somewhere around $40 a pound, several times the price of a good bag of beans. Even the man who invented the pod said publicly he regretted it and would not buy the machine himself. Older Americans, many raised on a percolator that ran all morning for pennies a cup, quietly went back to a simple drip pot or a French press. The coffee was fresher, the trash held fewer little plastic cups, and the household stopped hemorrhaging money one convenient sip at a time. Number 12. Bottled water. Here is where things get interesting, because this is the one almost everybody figured out eventually. Through the 1990s, bottled water became a status symbol and a health habit rolled into one. A case cost real money, and people bought it by the truckload, convinced it was cleaner, purer, and safer than what came out of the tap. Then the truth broke, and it broke hard. Two of the biggest selling brands in the country openly source their water from municipal supplies. In plain English, the same tap water, run through a filter and sold back to you at a markup that could reach 1,000 times the cost. Older Americans, who grew up drinking straight from the garden hose and lived to tell about it, felt genuinely fooled. Many bought a single filter pitcher or a faucet filter, filled a reusable bottle, and never touched a case again. The water tasted fine, the plastic mountain shrank, and the wallet stopped leaking for something that flowed, nearly free, from every sink in the house. Number 11. Name brand batteries. There was an unspoken rule in American households that you did not cheap out on batteries. You bought the famous copper-topped brand or the pink bunny brand because everyone knew the store brand would die in a week and leak all over your flashlight. That belief was worth billions. Then independent testing kept telling the same story. For everyday alkaline batteries in remotes, clocks, toys, and flashlights, the cheaper store brand cells performed remarkably close to the premium names, often at 1/3 of the price. Older Americans, who go through a small fortune in AA and AAA batteries for hearing aids, remotes, and grandkids' toys, started reading those results and buying in bulk from the warehouse store. The remote still changed the channel. The clock still kept time. And the difference saved across a year of constant replacements was real money. The premium had been resting on a reputation earned decades earlier and coasting ever since. Number 10. Name brand pantry staples. Sugar, flour, salt, baking soda, canned beans, aluminum foil, aspirin, spices. For generations, the trusted brand name felt like insurance against a ruined meal or a bad batch. The store brand right beside it, sometimes half the price, felt like a gamble. Then the truth about how groceries are actually made spread by word of mouth. A great many store brand products roll off the very same production lines, in the very same factories, as the national brand sitting next to them, with nothing different but the label and the price. Older Americans, tightening the budget on a fixed income, started running quiet experiments. Store brand flour in the family cake recipe, store brand foil on the Thanksgiving turkey. Nobody at the table could tell the difference, because there wasn't one to tell. The savings, spread across an entire cart every single week, added up to hundreds of dollars a year for accepting a plainer label on the exact same product. Number 9. Premium gasoline. For years, a certain kind of careful driver always pushed the button for premium at the pump. It cost more, so it had to be better, and better surely meant a cleaner engine and a longer-lasting car. That instinct cost American drivers untold millions. Then the truth, backed by automakers and consumer testers alike, finally got through. The vast majority of cars on the road are built to run on regular, and pouring premium into them delivers no extra power, no better mileage, and no meaningful benefit at all. Unless the owner's manual specifically requires premium, that higher octane is simply money set on fire. Older Americans, who tend to keep their cars a long time and read the manual cover to cover, checked that little line about fuel and found the word regular. They switched, saved 30 or 40 cents a gallon on every fill-up, and the engine ran exactly as it always had. The car never knew the difference. The bank account did. Number 8. Antibacterial soap. Now, here is a truth so official it came with a government stamp on it. For years, the antibacterial label on hand soap felt like a shield against a dangerous world, and shoppers paid extra to keep their families safe. Then the FDA took a hard look and reached a conclusion that stunned people who had trusted that label for a generation. The manufacturers could not show that antibacterial soaps worked any better than plain soap and water, and there were open questions about the long-term safety of the very chemicals doing the advertising. In 2016, the agency ruled that a whole list of those ingredients, including the most common one, could no longer be sold in consumer hand soaps. Older Americans who had bought that promise for years felt the ground shift. The lesson turned out to be the same one their grandmothers preached. Plain soap and warm water, and enough time to actually scrub, does the job. The word antibacterial on the front was selling fear, not protection. Number 7. Printer ink. Few purchases in modern American life produce as much quiet rage as replacement printer ink. A set of cartridges could cost more than the printer itself, and the machine seemed engineered to demand them at the worst possible moment. People paid it because a document had to be printed, and there was no arguing with a little blinking light. Then the truth got passed around, and it was almost unbelievable. Measured by the ounce, brand-name printer ink ranks among the most expensive liquids a household will ever buy, dearer than fine perfume or vintage champagne. And the printers were often designed to reject cheaper cartridges and cry empty while ink still remained. Older Americans who print recipes, tax forms, and photos of grandchildren got wise. They switched to refillable tank printers, bought third-party cartridges, or simply printed less and used the library or the drugstore kiosk for the rare photo. The blinking light lost its power. The most overpriced liquid in the house stopped getting bought. Number 6. Daily multivitamins. For the better part of a century, the morning multivitamin was a small act of faith, a little insurance policy swallowed with breakfast to cover whatever the diet missed. The industry grew into billions on that faith. Then the large, careful studies started coming in, and the picture was not what the bottle promised. For most healthy, well-fed adults, the research kept finding little to no benefit from a daily multivitamin in preventing the big diseases people feared, and some vitamin megadoses carried risks of their own. Older Americans, who often take genuine doctor-prescribed supplements for specific and real needs, learned to draw the line between those and the catch-all multivitamin bought on marketing alone. Many stopped the general pill after an honest conversation with their doctor and put the money toward actual food, which delivers its nutrients in the form the body evolved to use. The distinction mattered. Real medical need is one thing. A daily hedge sold on vague promises turned out to be something else. Number 5. Cable TV bundles. For decades, the fat cable bundle was simply the cost of watching television in America. $100 a month or more, climbing every year, for hundreds of channels a household might scroll past, but never actually watch. People grumbled and paid because there was no other way to see the game or the evening news. Then the truth of the bundle finally cracked open. Families realized they were paying for 200 channels to watch about 12, subsidizing a mountain of programming they never chose. Older Americans, long assumed to be the last loyal cable customers, started doing something the industry never expected. They cut the cord. An antenna pulled in local news and network shows for free, the way television always used to be. A streaming service or two covered the rest for a fraction of the old bill. The savings ran to $1,000 a year or more, and the 12 channels they actually watched were all still there. Number 4. Name brand pain relievers. When a headache hit or a knee ached, generations of Americans reached for the famous names, the ones with the catchy jingles and the trusted blue or red boxes. And they paid double, sometimes triple, for that box over the plain bottle beside it. Then people learned to read the two labels side by side, and the truth was sitting right there in the active ingredients. The famous brand and the store brand contained the exact same active ingredient, in the exact same dose, because the law requires it. The generic must be proven to work the same way in the body. The only real differences were the price, the packaging, and the decades of advertising that made one feel safer than the other. Older Americans, who buy pain relievers by the hundreds as the aches accumulate, started grabbing the store bottle without a second thought. The pain went away just the same. The extra dollars stayed in the purse, where they belonged all along. Number 3, whole life insurance as an investment. This one stings because it was often sold at the kitchen table by someone the family trusted. For years, whole life policies were pitched not just as insurance, but as a smart place to grow your money, a savings account with a death benefit attached. People signed up for decades of high premiums believing they were building wealth. Then the truth, long known to financial advisors, finally reached the ordinary buyer. Those policies frequently carried heavy fees and commissions, and the money inside often grew far more slowly than it would have in a simple, low-cost investment. For many families, the advisors pointed out, a cheaper term policy that covered the working years, combined with steady investing on the side, would have left them far better off. Older Americans who ran the numbers on policies they had funded for years felt the weight of it. Many learned the hard lesson and passed it straight to their children. Buy insurance for protection. Invest for growth. Do not let one product pretend to be both. Number 2, extended warranties. At the electronics counter, the appliance store, and the car dealership, the same question always came at the end. Would you like to add the extended warranty just in case? For an extra $50, $100, a few $100s, it felt like cheap peace of mind. And so people said yes, again and again. Then the truth about that little add-on came out, and it explained why the clerk pushed it so hard. Extended warranties are enormously profitable for the seller precisely because most people never file a claim. And the ones who do often find the fine print excludes exactly what broke. Consumer researchers concluded for years that, on the whole, buyers pay far more in warranty fees than they ever get back in repairs. Older Americans, who have bought enough appliances to see the pattern, started declining across the board. They banked the money they would have spent on all those warranties, and that quiet fund covered the rare, real repair with plenty left over. The peace of mind, it turned out, was cheaper to keep for themselves. And finally, number 1, buying brand new cars. For most of American life, the new car was the great symbol of arriving. The smell of it, the shine of it, the pride of driving it off the lot with the paper still on the floor. People financed that feeling for 5 and 6 years at a time, generation after generation. Then the single most expensive truth on this list sank in. A brand new car loses a large slice of its value the instant it leaves the dealership, and by the end of the first year, it can shed roughly a fifth or more of what was paid for it. That lost value is real money, gone, before the car has done anything but be driven home. Older Americans, who have bought enough cars to feel that drop in their bones, made the switch that saved them the most of anything here. They started buying gently used cars, 2 or 3 years old, letting the first owner absorb that steepest plunge in value. The same reliable car, the same road ahead, for thousands of dollars less. They let someone else pay for that new car smell and drove off with the savings instead. So there they are. 20 things a whole generation of Americans quietly stopped buying, not because they got cheap, but because they got wise. Every one of these was sold with a promise, and every one of those promises turned out to be softer than it looked on the commercial. Here is my challenge to you. Pick just one this week. Skip the bottled water, decline the extended warranty, read the 2 labels at the pharmacy side by side. Then tell me in the comments which truth surprised you the most, and which one your own parents or grandparents figured out long before the rest of us did. because that is the real lesson here. They were not being cheap. They were being smart. And now, so are you.